Good afternoon, everybody. We are here for the and of course, depends to use different techniques to do that. We'll get to the details of each step later in the following slides. This is just to give you an idea of the logic. Then once I have text content, I have to detect its language if the user requested that in the UI. The UI allows to say, okay, the following documents are going to be in French, they're going to be in English, or it allows to say, please detect the type of document for me because I have everything and anything on my hard drive. So if requested, detect its language. Of course, it takes a little more time, so you want to use it only if you need it. Then create the main document record. I'm not sure that you remember that, but in the analysis we have one document record and one document file. Then we have one dictionary file. And we have also, we didn't talk about it yet, a blob file. It's a separate file so that we read only the binary memos, the document themselves, when we need to display them or manage them. This allows for an easy way to increase the speed of all the queries and all that. So the first thing we do is create the main document record, and in it we have a flag called be_indexed, and it's set to false at the beginning. Then we create the blob record separately, and that is basically just taking the document and putting it in a record and writing it in the database. Of course, the speed of that part depends on the size of the document. If you're dealing with 500 gigabytes Word document, it's going to take some time. Then we create the index, and that is done in several steps. We call the creation of index for the extracted text from the document itself. So that means that we're going to extract each word from the document that is at least 3 bytes long, 3 characters long, and store it in the dictionary. Then, if requested in the UI, we are going to do the same thing with each part of the directory in which the document is stored. So that in the UI we say, okay, the directory where the document is meaningful. I want to have the whole path as keywords. Then we are always going to process the file name, because generally if you give a name to a file, it's kind of helping you remember what's in it, so it's a good thing to index that part. And then we index the manual keywords if any has been entered. So that's a lot of source of information that will allow you after that to retrieve the document. Once that is done, we are getting the main document record again and modifying it to say that it has been indexed. That is the current process, and this process is in the WxEDM docs class in the doc import one method. I plan on modifying that when I have the time by stopping, in fact, right there after creating the blob record and pushing all the index creation in the background process so that the user gets the control back very fast, and the background process sees that there's a record that is not indexed, index it, and then change the flag. This is why we have really this be_indexed flag right here. It allows me to know if a document has been indexed or not and do it that way. I'm even thinking, and I need to do some tests about that, about modifying the replication system so that the index is not replicated, just the main document, which will allow the machine on the other side to recreate the index the same way without having to transport that many records. I'm not sure what's faster, so I need to do some tests to see if transporting the index is faster or slower than recreating the index on the other side. Of course, it's something to check to see if it's always the case in all configuration. By example, how is it going to behave on an Android system? I don't know. Test to be done. So the extraction of the text, and now we're going step by step through all these lines. The extraction of the text depends on the type of file. For the doc and the OCX, in the current version, I am using the gembox.net assembly. It is a commercial component. You have to buy it if you want to use that functionality. And the code itself, once you know what you're doing with this assembly, is quite simple. By example, here, what we are doing is creating a .NET object called document model, calling the load method from the assembly. So we're loading the file. And then we're doing a save with a different name, which is a text file name, and this is saving as text. And just like that, we have the text extracted from a Word document. So it is extremely powerful, it is fast, and it's something that you can use on a web server without crashing the web server. So it's a tool that I really like. John has been kind enough to send me links to something that seems to be a library, a free library that would do all that with many other things. However, it seems to be a Java library, so I'm not sure if it's going to be a good fit for the product. If you know of any other tool that can do this kind of thing, do not hesitate, of course. I plan also to offer as an option to use OLE automation on Word or LibreOffice first, to do the same kind of work in an outside tool that would be free in that case. But again, I have to make choices because, well, days are only so long. For PDF files, I'm using simply PDF to text. I could have used also the Gembox document system because it is able to read a PDF file absolutely. I may even do that as an option at some point because it is perfectly possible that they are better at extracting text than the PDF to text is, but I did not have the time to test that, so for now it's just PDF to text. HTML is with HTML to text, and the same thing is true again. Gembox can do that without any problem. LibreOffice could do that also without any problem. So all that is probably going to end up as a set of checkboxes, use this or use that to do this or that in the settings of the application. Well, if I'm importing text file, clearly that is direct. I don't have any extraction to do. I have the text file. Anything else, there is no text content, so there is no extraction to do. There is a number of files that I want to support that are not supported yet, and you have a few of them here: ODT, RTF, XLS, and so on and so forth. Now, there is a problem, a potential problem at that level of the application, and I am not addressing it yet. It happens, it seems quite often, that you have a document on disk, in a disk, that says by the extension that is of one type, but in fact internally it is of a completely different type. So you have a .doc, and in fact it's a docx, or you have a PDF, and in fact it's the HTML, and you never know just by the extension what is what. I have found some example of code that can find out what the real type of the document is based on the beginning of the type of the file, the header. So that is something that I plan to implement at some point, but once again, it's somewhere down the road to make sure that there's no crash at that level because the file is not what it's saying it is. So the next step, this is the language detection. It is coded by Fred B from France. he decided to remain anonymous for a reason that he has and is not of our concern. And he did a really good job at implementing this statistical algorithm. In fact, I was really happy that he worked on that, because statistics, that would have been kind of a nightmare for me. So what is the principle of that? We did not invent this method at all, of course. And this is something that you find on the web without any problem if you look it up. And basically the system is to take the whole text and extract little pieces of each word. In our case, he decided to use the bigram method, which means that it is working on a group of 2 letters at a time. He tried it also with the 3 letter at a time method, and he found out that he had better result with the 2. So he used that one. So basically in every word, like language by example, you would extract each and every group of 2 letters following each other. So you would have LA, AN, NG, GU, UA, AG, and GE. And when you do that on a big enough number of words in the document, you end up with a counter for each group that you find. And then you compare that to the statistical value of each language. Because, believe it or not, it looks like these groups of the statistic on this group of letters is a very good indicator of the language of the document. We will have completely different list of number for each language. So it compares that using a statistical method, and if it is close enough, it doesn't have to match perfectly. If it is close enough, I think the error is about 3%, so that you have a good result. We declare it that we found the correct language. Currently, our implementation supports English, French, German, Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, and Dutch. The reason for that is that we are able to find online statistic values for these languages, so we didn't have to redo them. This algorithm works the same for any language, so that's a good thing. If you look at the class that manages that, it's the WxEDM text class, and it's in the lang detect method. If you look at that class in the header, you will see all the declaration for each language. So there's a huge number of lines with just each bigram and the counter for that language. And that makes it quite slow to load. There are so many lines that it takes about 3 seconds to create an object of that class, just to load the whole thing. This is why I'm not creating an object each time I'm using one. I'm creating an object when starting the project, and only once. And this is the reason why you have a 3-second delay between the login window and the main window. For now, I found that this is acceptable. I will try to improve the speed, and in fact, if we remove the statistic for any other language than French and English, it's going of course to be that much faster. But at that point, it is very much a demonstration project, so I thought it was interesting to show you how it works with that. Now, this is statistic. It's not magic. It is not going to be able to find the language each and every time. It will not find the correct language if the text is too short, because you don't have a valid statistical sample. And it will not find the correct language if the text is atypical. You have some text that will contain only a technical language, and even in French, some technical language is in fact English. So you have some mixed and match of information that makes it impossible to find. We are not doing bad at all from what I've been able to test right now. And that problem is the same for everybody who does this kind of processing. So you need to have a default value In our case, I decided that if we don't find which language it is, we said, well, okay, it's in English. And after that, we do what we can. Okay, we have found in which language we are working, or we already knew that the documents were in English. So we know which language we are working with. We are good at that level. We need now to extract all words from a document. A word typically is something that is sitting between two separators. Separators are, of course, begin of files, end of file, space, comma, slash, backslash, and so on and so forth. There's a list that is quite long. So there are several methods that you can use to get there. And once again, it's an area where I want to do some testing and some optimization, see which method is the fastest. Currently, this is a method that works and is not too slow, so it is what it is. Basically, I'm starting by replacing all the separator by space, one after the other, so you have a bunch of replace one after the other. It's not pretty at all, but it works. And once that is done, I can loop with an extract string on each and every word and process it. This processing is in fact calling the phonetic function, the sound, which is using the soundex algorithm. We're going to talk about that. And then for each word, create a record in the dictionary file called f_dictionary. We do that on the text of the document, on the directory, on the file name, on the keywords, and if you have anything else that you would like to add in the keywords, you just need to pass it to that function as a text, and it will do all that for you. This is done in the WxEDM docs, doc index create. You will see that I'm trying very hard to always name my method with a prefix that tells you the family of method, and then with something that indicates meaningfully what it's doing. This allows me to use the automatic completion in the editor to find easily what method to use at any given time. Because no, I don't remember them all by heart. Phonetic. I don't really like talking about phonetic at that level, because depending on the language, it's really not the same thing. So let's call it phonetic for now, and see how this was implemented in the WxEDM. There is a phonetic function in the W language. However, it is a French phonetic function only. The fact that you're using the US version doesn't mean that it's a US phonetic function, as far as I know. That gives the same result. And it is an old function, kind of dated. We had that forever in that thing, so I'm afraid that the algorithm that is used, they're not saying what it is kind of not the one that we should use. So this one was coded also by Fred B, using soundex for French and English. We can use a different algorithm by language if we want to, of course, or if we need to. By example, another algorithm called soundex2 was invented specifically for French, because it seems that on a phonetic level, French is more complex than English. Now, don't ask me how or why, it's just, it seems that we have more different combination of sound possible, something like that. But we did not implement soundex2 in this version because, well, time again is an issue, but also the fact that soundex2 is, by its conception itself and the fact that it's managing more things, slower. And it's supposed to be 3 to 4 times slower than soundex. And when you're looping on thousands and thousands and thousands of words, that may be an issue. So once again, this is an area that can be improved, probably will be improved. There will be more languages, there will be perhaps different algorithm, we don't know. But it is there and it is easily expandable. Now the principle of SoundX is in fact quite simple. Always keep the first letter of the word. So you have basically 26 group of SoundX value. And then the remaining thing is based on groups of letter per language. So that is the part that is going to be different in each language. What group of letter do you have? And it makes sense because in every language, if you take 2 letters, they have a sound. If you take these 2 letters in another language, they have a different sound. So this is the principle. And we are in fact replacing groups of letters by a numeric value. And we are doing that 3 times. It seems that it is enough to have a good correlation between the sound and what you're typing. So the result is something on 4 is a string on 4 characters with a letter first and then 3 numbers. So you have 1 letter and 0 to 9, 0 to 9, 0 to 9. If the word is too short, then the end is completed by zeros. Of course, one of the optimizations that we already did is that you don't have to process the whole word if it's a very, very long word, because as soon as you have found the 3 first numbers, everything else is ignored in this thing. So that is going pretty fast now when we already optimized it, and we're able to make it usable here. This is in a WxEDM text. It is phonetic get value. And it's very, very easy to use. You just pass the word and the language in which it has to be working. Okay, files and directory selector. I showed you my control when I was doing the demo, where you can select both files and directories at the same time. I needed that for years and years and years, and I decided that, okay, it was time to code it. So what I did, I created, well, it's for replacing the fselect or the fselectdir, which are 2 different commands, not practical. So I created a control template, which means that you can create a control anywhere, inherit from the template, and you have your file and directory selector directly inside your window, which is the way I did it for the import window. It's directly in the window. And when you use it, I try to be as simple as possible. Basically, you're taking your control and you're saying control equal directory. Whatever you pass as a directory is going to be the root of the directory and file tree. If you pass an empty string, then it's going to show you all the disk, the lettered disk that you have on your machine. And no, it is not working currently on network drive with // in front of it. I'm sure it can be improved at that level, but it's not. Once you have selected something, well, anytime you want to see what is selected in it, in fact, you just do my string is Unicode string equal and the name of the control. At that point, you're getting a carriage return separated list with anything that is selected inside your control. It can be a directory or it can be a file. And you loop on it and you do whatever you have to do. Now, that's one way of using this as inside a window that where everything you have. That is something that you could not do with the fselect or the fselectdir. It was always outside. You had to click on a button, go in the window, close the window. So here you can have it inside the window, but you can also do it the same way that fselect and fselectdir were and are still working. And for that, I created a window with the super control inside, and just the parameter code to pass everything to the super control and back. So it opens the window, it passes root and title, and you get a carriage separated string when the user click on OK and close the window. So that's the same behavior of your regular selectors. And there is also a third way of doing that. You can just use that global procedure that I created with the same naming convention than PCSoft is doing, which is fselect dirs and files, giving in parameter the root of your control and the title of the control. So you have the fselect if you just want a file, fselect dir if you just want directory, and fselect dir and files if you want both of them. And that's all. It works the same way in each case. And you get, of course, directories and or files, so it's up to you after that to check what you have and what you need. Now the logic inside the control itself is basically that if you select a directory, you select everything that is under it. If you unselect the directory, you unselect everything that is under it, and you can pick and choose whatever is under it at any point. Of course, if not everything is selected under directory, I'm not going to return the name of the directory itself. I'm just going to return the selected lines. So that's just a little bit of coding that gives you a new tool. If, like me, you didn't like the fact that you had to tell your user, well, go get a file. I know, okay, click on the other button to go get a directory, and we will process all the files in it. You can do it directly here. Now that is a search function. So this is on top. This is the top of the window that allows you to search. As you can see here, you can enter as many words as you want. The search will be done for each word independently. I did not implement the search of a sentence. So if you put quotes and quotes around the thing, it won't do a thing. It will just be ignored, just so you know. It's not that we cannot do it. It's just that I did not do it because that's not the way I search most of the time. So it searches words and not phrases. It searches as many as you want. Basically, it's the size of the string. There's no limit set, so you can put as many as you want. And of course, it's going to take much longer if you have 25 words to search for than just one. No question about that. It is an inclusive OR for the geek between us who wants to think in that way. And the result is going to be sorted by best match. Best match means that if you're looking for 3 words and you find a document where the 3 words are in exactly, it's better than if they are in phonetically. It's also better if you have if you only have 2 words or 1, obviously.
Consider the order of the words?
No.
And there's no and. You can't put a plus sign or anything.
Well,
This and this and this.
well, there's no and, but the result being displayed by best match, the and is in fact the first line that you have, and it is in a different color. If you find all the words and exactly, then the lines are displayed with a green background. If it's not exact, then it's on the gray background. So there is no and.
So the and is implied by
Exactly. The and is implied, and you see in the result if you in fact have an and in the result.
and only whole words, correct?
For the and, yes. In green, if you have all words and all that.
No, the partial words, it will still search for.
If you ask for the partial words, it's an option. Here. You search either for complete, start with, or fuzzy. But if you search if you search with the fuzzy option or the start with option, the green thing is still going to be for the complete case, so for the and exact. I try to not give too many options in the UI and still let you see that you have a perfect match here and everything else after that is not perfect. That may not be the best implementation. That's what we have at that point. Options for the search are the language. So you can search for only for things that are set as French, so only for things that are set in English, or you can say, we don't care about the language, I'm looking for these words, help me out. There is a little problem in that coding that I know of. I just didn't have the time to deal with it. When we search for all languages, and at the same time we search in phonetic, we should in fact search several times for each phonetic value of each language. We should do a first search with the phonetic value for French and a second search for phonetic value for English. Currently I am not doing that. So it's not perfect in the case where you have all here and fuzzy at the same time. Needs improvement. Again, didn't have the time. You can also search for the specific types of document here. Either you select all of them or just some of them. That part again is not optimized. That has been added later and it's not part of the query, which means that it's probably slower than it can be. So it's just an elimination process in the result of the query. Now I've been thinking that maybe it's a good thing because it will allow to modify the search result in the table just by clicking on the type of document. However, it would be probably confusing, so I'm probably going to review that at some point. Now the good thing about that is that it works. It does kind of a good job. The speed is variable because we are working on an HF classic file. So the first time you're going to do a search, the result is going to be quite slow. The second time you're going to do a search on something completely different, it's going to be much faster. So just so you know, it is the behavior that you have with HF classic each time. This is not optimized. I know that I can go much faster than that. I already have tests planned, so don't shout immediately when you think it's not fast enough. You can help on the test, you can help on optimizing, no problem. You can tell me how to do it much better than that. Do not hesitate, please. Also, this part needs some decision made on the UI. Whether to, by example, keep the search option from one time to the next one, or set up default set options, or set up default per user. I'm always looking for docs, so by default that is how it's going to be. I'm really not sure what's the best solution at that level, so we can certainly talk about that if anybody is interested. So this is it works and it's a work in progress, and I'm pretty sure that we can improve it. Now, this is the second part of the window. As you can see, I cut the window horizontally to show you a different part and talk about them. That's the result. So here, the first lines are on a green background, which means those are a perfect match with the search that you did. The one afterwards are on a gray background, which means that it's a partial match, either because it's fuzzy and not exact, or because not all words are there. On the right here, I have a quick text preview of the document that is selected here. I implemented this because Well, I could have all my kind of fields available here and open the doc and open the PDF and open this and open that. But if the document, the binary document is big, this is going to be slow. So I decided against that. I could also have taken, by example, a picture of the first page and used that to have a perfect match visually, but nothing else. And again, I thought that that was probably going to be slower with an image to load each time. So what I did is, because I am already extracting the text of the document during the process, I am storing the text of the document in the main record and displaying it here as a quick preview. That may not be the best solution, and that may not stay there. I don't know. I'm waiting for returns from all of you, your experience, what you think, how it works, if it's good or not. But that's the way it is currently implemented. There is only one button at that level, and it is open. Yes, I could have set all the other buttons there, delete, save as, copy, export, whatever you want, and I decided against it. I decided against it because I have heard too many times, oh, I did that, I deleted the wrong document. Oh, I exported the wrong document. Oh, well, you think you're on the correct document, you open it. And in the open window, you can delete it, you can close it, of course, you can export it, you can print it, you can do whatever you want, but you are on the full document. And if you're telling me that you deleted the wrong one, too bad. At that point, I cannot do anything for you. So that is the reason why there's only one button here. It's not that I was lazy or anything, because it was more work to put all the buttons in all the windows than put them there, but I thought it was a bad idea. That also means that in the main window, where we have the list of recent documents, we also have only the open button available. No delete, no print, nothing directly. You open it first, then you do something on it. Now, we arrive at the step where we have found the document and we want to open them. And one of the requirements was to open the document inside your application and not in an external program. This means that you do not need to have either Word or LibreOffice or anything else installed on the machine, because we have inside the program directly what we need. So each type, or nearly each type, has a specific window in order to process it the appropriate way. The windows are called WEditDoc, WEditHTM, WEditPDF, and WEditText. You may see that there is no WEditImage. That's because images and PDF are processed the exact same way. So for both all type of images and PDF, we're using WEditPDF. Now, depending on the type, some functions are available and some other are not available. Well, I don't have any way currently to edit the content of a PDF, which may be a good thing. It's considered to be an image. Now, when a PDF has text content, I could open it in WEditDoc with the text control, and it would probably work. I could also open it outside the application in LibreOffice or something like that, and we could probably change things in it. So that may change, or there may be the first window to see what's in it and another button to modify it. I'm really not sure at that level what is going to be most useful. So if you have thought about that, once again, do not hesitate to talk with me, or even the whole group. There's no problem. And in this version, the file first is automatically extracted in a temporary directory, then opened by the tool. And that is a security flaw that I don't like at all. So only the document you're working on are on the disk, but my purpose was not to have the document on the disk at all. Currently, they are on the disk. And if I implement the usage of Word or LibreOffice to do the edit of a document, clearly they will have to be on the disk. However, the internal tool that I'm using takes text control, a commercial tool once again, has some function that should allow me to give it directly the blob without putting it on disk first. I just had half an hour playing with it and I was not able to find the correct syntax yet to do that. So as I couldn't do it for the Word document, I said, okay, for now let's use the same method for everybody, put it in a temporary directory and work with it. So to open a document in WxEDM, you just call one method. It's in the CLEDM docs class, and it's called doc open. I've been extremely original on that one. And you give it the GUID of the document main record in database, and everything else after that is taken care of. So this will first extract the file from the binary memo, and then automatically call the appropriate window based on the document type. The window itself is going to receive the name of the file, the full qualified name of the file with the temporary directory where it has been extracted. The GUID, in order to be able to save it eventually if it's modified. The keywords that are coming from the main record, and the language, and I think there's something else afterwards. So the window knows in which language the document is supposed to be, and it will display it for you, and you will be able to modify that too. If there's any saving or any other operation involved afterwards, it's all in the window itself. And this is one of the windows. This is a Word document open inside your application directly. And as you can see, the editor has a kind of old wordy look. There are 2 or 3 different looks available in the tool. This is done using an ActiveX, and you have in fact one ActiveX. It's the big text one. A second one, which is the, I don't know how you call that line, on top with all the buttons. Then a third one here on the left, and 2 here for the ruler and the section, page, line, column, line. So these are in fact 5 different ActiveX control.
Just to display a doc. You need 5 ActiveX to display a doc?
Well, that's the way the ActiveX control is made. There's one main ActiveX for the text, and then you position the other ones where you want. If I wanted, I could have said, okay, this one is at the bottom and this one is at the top, or this one is on the right side. So the reason why it's made like that, as far as I understand it, it's because these are UI elements and you want to be able to play with them and push them in different directions. Also, you may not want to display this one, or that one, depending of your application and what you want to do. So yes, it is 5 ActiveX control, all coming in the same package, of course. And the first line of the window is basically saying, hey, main ActiveX, these are the other 4. And then after that, they deal with each other. So in all my windows, I try to keep the same positioning for the button so that it is as easy as possible. Of course, because not all buttons are available everywhere, there will be some changes. On the right of the window, so on the left we have the document itself. We still have at the top the lock button. So from any window of the application, you have to leave lock and everything is locked, all the window. Then on the right we have all the things that we can do here. The first control at the top is the language, display and choice. This document is set in the database as being in English. If you realize at some point that it's an error, it's in French, you press French, you save, and that's that. Then we have, of course, the close button. That's just closing the window, so that's not a problem. We have the save and the save as button. If this window is open without document name and GUID, it means that we are in the creation mode, in which case the save button will not be available, only the save as. And then we have a print function, an export function, and a delete function. The print is done via a function of the ActiveX, so it's doing all the printing by itself. The export is basically asking the user where he wants to put his doc or whatever document is there, and we already have the file, so we copy it there. And the delete is doing everything from deleting the file that is outside to deleting all the records inside. Finally, here at the bottom right, we have an edit field with the keywords content. So this is the list of keywords that was originally entered when importing the document, or entered when creating the document. And they are following the document all the time, because each time we are saving it, we need to re-index all the keywords. So you see each time what the keywords are. You can add to the list, remove to the list, absolutely do whatever you want. And there's no specific formatting, because we're replacing all possible separator, whatever. So if you want to do it one per line, all one after the other, with comma, with whatever you used to, it doesn't matter. This is the significant code inside that window. And this window is using a tool called TX Text Control. I chose to use the ActiveX because it seemed to be the easiest way in WinDev. That may not be the case. They also have that thing as an assembly, a .NET assembly and different other technology. And it's available on www.textcontrol.com. Now, what I did in this specific case is that I created a collection of procedure, or global procedure, with different function in it to manage this ActiveX. And these functions are txtc init, txtc open, and a few other, I think that 4 or 5 functions. I could have created a class, absolutely, where we will have an object for all this kind of thing, but in that case, everything is linked to the control in the window. There is no variable to manage this or that, so there was really nothing that I could see that would be better in the class, and that meant that basically I added new keywords to the W language to manage the text control. So if in any window you just want to display a document using that ActiveX, you put all the ActiveX where you want to, and you say txtc init, then txtc open, and you're done. 2 lines of code. The txtc init, text control init, receives as parameter the name of the window in which it's working. We have the control. And then the name of the 5 ActiveX in a specific order. This is just to tell the main guy, hey, your team is made from these 4 guys, and they are there, so you just manage them. This is the code of the function in question, just to show you that there's nothing very complex about it. You just have to find the correct syntax. We are using here indirection because we are passing the name of each control. So this between the squarely bracket is the name of the main field. And we're using the greater than syntax because it's an ActiveX, and then calling the different function of the ActiveX, So the button bar handle is in fact this control. The status bar handle is this control, and so on and so forth. There are also several other things that you can do. By example, here it says the direction is equal 1, which means vertical, because some of the control could be vertical or horizontal around the main thing. And also it tells the control the height in pixel in which to display. And at that point it arranges everything around it. That's for the vertical ruler, and I see that I still have some French naming that I have to replace. The reason I have some French naming is because I extracted part of this code from tons of different projects that I've made during the years, sometimes for French customers, sometimes for non-French customers, sometimes coded in French, sometimes in English. So basically after that I had to clean up and try to be as thorough as possible, and I see that at least at the time I did that slide, I had forgotten that one. The text control open function just receives the full file name, and that's all there is to it, and it does its magic inside it with some code like that. This is in the CPR global text control collection of procedure. So basically you want to use that in another project. You take the collection of procedure, you copy the 5 ActiveX control from the window where it is, and you're done. So that's very easy to use. There are also functions called txtc print and txtc save as. I'm going to let you imagine by yourself what they are doing. That should take you a long time. Is currently missing a thing that I want to implement at that level. There is no spell checking in the control. To implement the spell checking, you need to get an extra tool from their collection and link it to the first one. And I did not have the time to play with that yet. So there is no spell checking as of now. The spell checking in WinDev does not exist. The spell checking in WinDev is the Word or OpenOffice spell checking that they are redirecting inside. If you do not have Word or LibreOffice or OpenOffice, I'm not sure it was working with LibreOffice, installed on the machine, it's not there. And I am trying to be able to have that working without it. I plan on having that as a possible option, but I would like to be able to put that thing on the computer by itself, and you have the word processing and you have everything in it without anything else outside. That's what I'm trying to do.
Well, there might be an advantage to putting LibreOffice.
Sure.
Because I just emailed you a link for how you can run LibreOffice in headless mode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh,
there are lots of advantages, and I plan on implementing that too as an option. But I want to be able to not do it in order not to have anything outside necessary for the program to run. So lots of juggling to do everything. For now, that's the way it is. Another thing that is missing is the print preview in that specific case. There is a syntax in text control to do that. Basically, it is use a field of a certain type, take the system handle of it, give it to text control, and it's going to print in it, and that's the print preview. However, I have not found yet what type of field and what type of handle works for text control, so there's more coding involved and testing involved at that level. And of course, we already talked about the fact that it's not a real full in-house because we have a temporary file setting up on the disk each time. So that is clearly a security flaw. Now this is the same window for the HTML. well, it's not the same window, it's the WxEDM HTM, but it is organized the exact same way. You have a control here, and that control is simply the WinDev HTML control. As of now, that's the way I'm doing it. I could have displayed, as far as I know, the HTML inside the TXText control window, because they are supporting HTML also. I haven't. I'm not sure that's the best solution. That was the kind of thing where one day I was thinking, okay, I'll put it in an HTML field. One day in the TXText control, I was really not sure which one would be the best. And at that, still today, I really don't know which one is the best, if there is a best. So maybe once again, that may be an option that you select in your general settings or user settings, saying open the HTML this way or that way. The two windows are there anyway. So I don't know. Same thing at that level: English, French, close, save as, print. The print is done simply by using a report with an HTML field in it. That's all. Report, HTML field, and I print report. That's as simple as you can be. Export is done the same way than previously. Delete is done the same way. And keyword management doesn't change. That is exactly the same thing. This is the PDF and image viewer. So this window is a little different because some of these type of files can be multi-page. You can have a PDF multi-page, of course, but you can also have a TIFF that is multi-page, and I think there's another type of image that can be multi-page too, and I forgot which one. So if it is multi-page, you will see each page here in that control. It's a simple looper, and you can select which one you want, and it is displayed on the left side. This is the transformation of an example coming with WinDev called WD PDF viewer, if I remember correctly. So I basically reused all that control, completely changed the icon and the size because it was controls that were about a quarter of an inch high, and for my finger there were just no way I could use that. And this, because of that, contains a few extra options that I'm not sure are going to stay there. You still have the English, French, close, save as, print and export. Print is done once again with a report. But you have these few things on top of it. Full height, full width, full height and width, percentage of zoom, and here you have, I don't even remember what that is. I think it's the page number on the total of page, and it looks like it's not working correctly because I seem to be on page 7 and it's telling me 1 over there. So those are directly coming from the WD PDF viewer. Once again, I wonder, do I leave them here or do I remove them? Are they of any use or just a gimmick? I'm not sure. Any input is welcome. There is also here a select button. When you click on it, you can basically do a crop of a part of the image and put it in the clipboard. I'm not sure that it will ever be useful to anybody. It was there. I said, okay. It will take about the same time to remove it than to change the icon and then variable names. So, same thing, keyword management. I'm not showing you any specific code about this window because those are really, really completely basic WinDev function, really nothing to it. Now we have the exact same thing for a text file. Well, in that case, the only difference is that it's a text field instead of being HTML or whatever. And we have the exact same functions available on the right. And now we're going to do a secondary demonstration of the project, just to show you what I call advanced UI. And some of you will probably call ugly, but that's the way it is. It's not black on black. And nothing is black on black. It's white on black on my website. No, it is white on black. Mm-hmm. So let me start this. Okay, that's the login. So this is the 3 seconds delay that comes from opening the loading the first document I was talking about. You remember? Because of the language thing with all the statistics in it. What I mean by advanced UI is the fact that, well, you can open several search at the same time, search on different word, different way. Let's see, we're going to do that, complete, yes, okay, let's do it that way. So it found this, it found 49 documents in 765 milliseconds. This is probably going something that is going to be removed in the final version because that's completely geeky and nobody is going to use it instead of us for testing. Hmm? Yeah, well.
What you need to do is in the 765 milliseconds, you need to put a 0 in front of that.
So you can have several search open at the same time. I'm going here to do this and that. And there you go. You can have, I'm going to do a third one. Okay, so we have all that. Why is the green after something else? What did I do this time? Okay, I'll need to have a look. That's okay.
So the most important ones are green and they're not on the top.
Yeah, then that's not normal. So I thank you. You just find a bug for me. You know, it's always during the demo that you find them. But remember, this is really an alpha version. I had very little time to test everything. So please, if you find any bugs anywhere, document it, send it to me. That will help me a lot. If you want to find the correction of the bug and send you the correction instead, you can do that too, and do not hesitate. I will not be offended, I promise you. At that point, we are going to open a few documents just to show you that we can from different windows.
Will the preview window preview every type of document?
What do you call the preview window?
Well, when you're clicking it, you're seeing a preview to the right, right?
Yeah, okay. On the right, it's just the text preview. So if you're,
Text only.
yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. I extracted the text just to go fast. That's the method I chose. So if you don't have any text in it, you won't see anything. And if it's a PDF file, it's possible that the text is not going to be very meaningful. But that's the solution I chose currently for speed. Now, in the we're going to open a few more.
You should color code the left column by type of document.
I don't know what left column is, but
The left column where it says PDF.
oh, okay.
Should be chartreuse and text should be yellow.
Why not? Yeah.
Because sometimes you know what you're looking for. You know you're looking for a PDF file.
Well, if you're looking if you're looking for
But see, he's got a multiple search.
yeah, but
So he clicked on 5 things and now they're all intermixed.
yeah, because I'm looking for 5 things. if I just want a PDF file, I search only for PDF. So that would not be the reason why I would do that, but that's okay. Now, once you have opened all these documents, of course, it's a total mess, but with here in the main window, you can just select whatever document you want. Each time you have the name of the document. If it's a search window, it says search and English, because that's what you are searching for. The number of document is, of course, not limited. And if you increase the size of the window, this will automatically increase also.
So if you hook into the operating system when you move a document, have it update your database.
I don't understand the question, I'm sorry.
If I take a document from one directory and move it to another.
They are not in a directory. They are inside the database.
On my computer, they're on a directory.
Where they won't be as soon as you import them in there. I'm not managing external document. That was the main point of the product that I was explaining yesterday. I am importing all the document inside the database, and they are not outside the database anymore at all. Now, in the current import, I am not deleting the external file because, well, it's in alpha version. I really want to keep my document available at some way. But the plan is, as soon when you import it, it is imported and it's deleted from the disk. And there is nothing on the disk for security reason. That was the whole point yesterday of this security explanation. Otherwise, once again, you're relying on Windows security for your files. So here you have your whole UI, and you can, of course, open also document from your list of you can have the import window open at the same time. You can open document from the list of recently opened document, and all that. After that, you can just go from one to the next using the what I call the Windows list here, any way you want. Now, as you can see, this is basically multi-everything. You can open several user forms at the same time, several search forms, several documents, as many as you want, no problem. They are all working using OpenSister, so nothing is relying on the other to be there. They are all in the taskbar. Of course, in your Windows taskbar, because they are in OpenSister, you will see, just like you would see in Word, all the different things. I cannot show you that because my taskbar is on the second screen, but you will see, if you go in the taskbar, all the windows of the document. And they are also in the Windows bar at the bottom of my screen for that exact reason. I don't want to have to go to the fourth screen when there's my taskbar, when I'm working, in fact, on the second one. So all that is directly there. When you do this kind of complex UI, there are many ways to screw up, and not a lot of way to do a code that is not going to explode in your face at some point. And I learned that the bad way when we were working on a big project, and we needed this kind of UI, even more complex than that, where basically any window could open any window at any time, anyway. And of course, at some point, something was closing something. And that's where you have a problem. The way things are managed, my understanding at least of the way things are managed is in Windows, is that for each application you have a stack of calls. In this stack of calls you have addresses of basically who's calling what, and everything is managed this way. When you open, it's easy, you just add at the end of the stack the address of the new window, the pointer to the window object of whatever they need. When you delete, you remove something from the list. And when a child window is deleting a parent window, sometimes it works. It looks like it should work all the time, and sometimes not so much. But when it doesn't work correctly, it doesn't crash at that time when you're doing your close. No, that would be way too easy. It just screw up the stack, and later, at some point, very often when you're closing the program, do the end program, close everything, poof, you have a beautiful GPF, general protection fault, because it's trying to remove everything from the stack, and there's something that doesn't point to anything, or there's something missing, or whatever. That can happen, very often it happens when you close the program, so you have no clue where the problem is. Or sometimes it just happens when you're doing something else, and you have a clue that is completely wrong. You're opening a window, and it crashes. Oh, okay, it's in the opening of that window that the problem is. It was 15 minutes ago when you were closing that window. So, as you can imagine, the debug of a problem like that is kind of a nightmare. And it took us quite some time to understand what was going on, and then to design a solution that would work the right way. So, I already told you all that, closing, yeah. So, instead of doing open and close from anywhere, the only solution that I found that works all the time without any problem is to have all the open and closed done from the main window. Now, clearly, I'm opening the search window, and from there I'm opening a secondary window, a third window, and so on and so forth, and I can have as many levels as I want. However, all the openings are technically made by the main window. And the way to do that is simply from a secondary window to tell the main window, hey, open that window. Hey, close that window. Hey, refresh that window. Hey, do this, do that. And the main window is just doing whatever everybody else is telling it to do. So, in order to do that, I am adding in a queue. We have a beautiful new variable type called queue in WinDev, in W language. And a queue is just something where you can add from the end and remove from the beginning. That's all. So it is a first in, first out queue. Once you have added in the queue whatever parameter you need, the type of action, open a window, the name of the window, the parameter to pass to the window, or whatever else you need, you put all that in the queue, and then you use the post message function, which is the basic messaging mechanism between objects in Windows, to the first window. Now, the first window, at the beginning of the first window, there is an event line that says, okay, when you receive this kind of message, call this procedure. And in that procedure, you're going to look at the beginning of the queue, what do I need to do? And you have the action, you have the name of the window, you have the parameters and all that, and in that code, you're doing what you have to do. This is all in a collection of procedure called CPR windows. I really try to isolate functions by type, so that if you want to implement part of it in something, you can just extract part as easily as possible. So it is in CPR windows, and in it you have two functions called window open and window close that you can use to do that. This will basically have the same kind of syntax than open or close, but it is going in fact to do all that, adding the queue, call the main window and all that. When you do that, the stack is always neat and tidy, because it's always the main window doing the job, and there is no problem. Took me quite some time to find it. Took me not very long to implement it, because the principle is quite simple, in fact. And as soon as I implemented that, GPF were a thing of the past. Yes.
Some command to the effect of what execute main thread.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be an alternative for what you did, or is there something goes on in this that's
execute main thread is something that you do when you're doing multi-threading, which is absolutely not that case. So there's no really any relationship with what we're doing here. Now, if you were to need to open a window from a secondary thread, then yes, you could do an execute main thread of window open just to link to it. But as long as you're doing mother threading, that doesn't enter into account. I was saying earlier that I was going to implement the indexation of words in the background, but I do not plan to implement that using a secondary thread. I plan to implement that using a secondary executable. The reason for that is the same reason why the replication engine is a separate executable. It can run before my program, after my program, and it can do all this indexation when I'm not there if necessary. So multi-threading is great for some things, but there are other considerations, and in that case, that's not really our problem. Okay? So all that is in the collection of procedure windows. Okay, let's look at the help editor now. The help editor, first, why did I want to implement a help editor inside my project and not using a classical help editor outside? Well, if I can, I like to not have to rely on external tools. I've been showing you the exact contrary before, but I didn't find any other solution. So that's one reason. That's not the main one. The main one is that I find very often that people, the rare people who are reading the help, are also people who can complement the help, add notes, add things. Most people don't read the help anyway, so let's forget about those. But those who are reading the help could improve it. And that is something that you cannot do with an external tool, as far as I know at least. So by having the help being in fact recorded inside our database, we have the possibility to do just that, let them edit, record, add secondary record, whatever we want them to do. And because that is a file in the database and therefore replicated, any other user of the company or the group or whatever it is will benefit from those notes. So that is something that I find to be an interesting function.
So this is your version of Wikipedia?
Yeah, if you want. Yeah, okay. Why not? I didn't think of it that way, but yes, okay. Works. Also, because everything else is multi-language, the help system is multi-language also. So if you are working in the English UI, you are seeing the English help and editing the English help. If you are working in the French UI, you are working against the French and editing the French help. Currently, yeah, and this of course is a system that is at that stage very simple. Again, I didn't want to spend too much time on that because, well, there were so many different things to do, but I wanted to have something functional, and it is working. It is basically one file in the analysis, the help file. Very original naming. There is an easy key management system. One of the problems that you have when you manage help is that at some point in the code you have to say, I want to display that help. In the classical help system, it's a number. So you go in a window and you say, okay, I want to display the help, and it's help 327. You wouldn't imagine the number of times I entered the wrong number. Just plain stupid. So I decided that no, I was not going to do that way. I was not even going to put a GUID there because it's unreadable. So in my file, I have a group and a title field. And this is not technically in the file a unique key because of the replication, but it is logically a unique key. And in order to display the help of something somewhere, you're just going to use that string. Pretty, formatted, and all that. And because you don't want to type something wrong, in the help editor, you have a button that's just going to copy the current page key inside the clipboard, and you just have to paste it wherever you need it. So that was my way of trying to solve the problem.
Did you index your own help?
Index my own help?
You've got the index already?
Actually, currently, no. Because I don't have a search function on the help either. This is supposed at that stage, it is supposed to be a contextual help. So the way I implemented it, and I'm going to show you that, is that in the import window, you have the import help directly in the window. You can, of course, display it also in a separate window where you could have a search, where you can go through the help of everything. But currently, the way, and I have somewhere where I did that just to show you that it's possible, I did not go that direction. I wanted them to be able to say, okay, I'm in that window, help, I see the help, import, I do the import, I go back to the help, I go back to the import, and everything is there.
It occurs to me that if you take this help and your indexing format,
Mm-hmm.
you have one more thing, which is the ability to reference other documents
Mm-hmm.
in a document. You have a very, very impressive documentation system as well.
It is a good idea. I didn't think about that, so I'm going to repeat it for the posterity and the recording. Yes, you're absolutely right. If I add the possibility to link a document that is in the database to any record of the help, and add at the same time the indexation of the text of the help, then you have a system that is much more powerful than it is as designed here. And that may be something that we need to do at some point, or that you need to do and give to the community, of course. No, it is a very good idea. Again, time constraint, I've been working on that on and off since May. And I've been really, really in bad shape time-wise because, well, I had customers who wanted me to work for them at the same time. So I could not go as far as I wanted in a lot of situations. And yes, we can go much further on. I didn't think about that possibility, but it is clearly a very good idea. Also, at this point, the text is only that. The text of the help is a text field. It could have been an RTF field, HTML field, so that you could have some formatting. With RTF, you could even have images embedded in the text. Because I don't know if you know that, but if you use an RTF field inside WinDev and you drag an image from the outside, it is embedded in the string itself as a base64 encoded. So you don't have any external file to deal with. So, lots of possibilities here, and we're going to have a look at how it works. So this is the help editor. When you open the main window, you have the settings, and in there you have a button to go to the help editor. I was talking to you about the key, and if you look at the upper right corner of the screen, you see that you have a button called key, if you can believe it. And this is what is going to copy in the clipboard the key of the currently selected line here. So we have, in fact, a screen copy here. This one is the one that you see when you arrive, the top one. In there you have the chapter and page title. So you see we have on the help editor, presentation, help editor, how to, and then a few pages on the import. As you can see, there is not a lot of text available right now in the help. Feel free to type some. I did not have the time to document all the functions, so there's some work to do at that level too. in that window, what you have is an up and down button here. So you select one and you move it up and down to manage in which order the things are displayed. When you call the function to display the help somewhere, you give it the key right here. The key points to one page. If you want to display one chapter, you just remove the page name. And at that point, you will have all the page visible, and you will select the one you want to display. If you go up and down here, and you change chapter, by example, you take that line and you go up once, and then the second time, you have a beautiful message saying, you are going to change the chapter of that page. Is that really what you want to do? If yes, it becomes part of the other chapter, so you can reorganize things. And then you have all the completely logical buttons: new, edit, delete, and copy. Copy because, well, you end up saying basically the same thing several times when you have several options for the same thing. So you can create a new record with a copy of the one you're on. When you're using new, edit, or copy, you have that second screen available. And I'm saying screen and not window because that's one of the places where I use the new trick of the tabs without titles. So all this is in the same window. This is a self-contained help editor.
The word is panes.
Panes? Okay. So, okay. That's what it's called in WinDev, but it's the tab control in WinDev.
Well, when I went in there, it said I wanted to look at the next one. It says look at next pane.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about that. This is a tab control, and yes, it doesn't have any title for its panes. So each layer is a pane, but that is a tab control. That is not a pane control.
Is a tab control hooked to the panes?
No, it's a tab control, and each layer of the tab control is a pane of the tab control. That's the word they are using. That's not me. I'm just repeating. So when you are in the second pane, you have the chapter and the title here. You create a new chapter just by typing the chapter name in there, and it's created automatically. Same thing for the title. Then you type your text. It's just text, and you save. It's extremely basic. And all that is saved in the help file. I could have saved all that in my parameter file, as I was telling you earlier. But this is typically going to be a file where there can be a ton really of records, and I thought that it was worth a full file for that. Now, we already saw how the help is displayed, so I'm not sure I need to show it to you again. Do you want to see how it's displayed afterwards, the result of that, or not? Or do you remember it? You want to see it? Okay.
Oh, I see. You have to set to invisible.
Sorry?
You have to set to invisible.
What I have is the title is invisible. So it is a regular tab control, but they don't have any title that is visible. It's a new option in 20. I wanted to play with it, see if it was better or worse than using planes, which would have been also a solution. I'm not convinced at that point. It looks like a plane, but with a more difficult way to get to the other planes. So it's possible that I'm just going to change that to planes. At that point, I don't know. So, of course, because I have not been using my application for quite some time, the application locked itself automatically. So I need to reboot, re-login. Where is that thing? Let's see, I'm going to remove that from the middle. there. And if we go into the import window, this is an example on how you can display the help inside a window. This is the import window. But here you can see this is the help by the import window. And then you decide that you want to import some files, you click on it, and the help is replaced by another internal window in which you do in fact the processing. So that's one way of doing things. Missing on that window is a help button that would allow me to come back to the help. I don't have it right now. Another way of doing that would be to say I would want to see the help at the same time than this. And in that case, you just open the internal window outside. And for that, I have a window that is made exactly for that, and it's called W shell for internal window, something like that, which is an empty window, just contain internal window control and allow me to display by itself any internal window. So trying to mix and match things to have a UI that is as easy as possible. Let's go back to the presentation. Where am I? There. Okay. And we are nearly at the end of the presentation. After that, we're going to start digging in the code seriously. Or talk about the replication, you'll choose. Okay, so bits and pieces. This is what I was talking about. In that window, the one that we just left, I was using a tab with invisible panes. That is what they're calling it. So it's a tab control, and in the details of the tab control, you set the mode to invisible panes, at which point this is not displayed anymore. And you're basically using planes with inside a tab. It's kind of strange. I'm not sure why they did that, but I wanted to try it in real case to see if it was good or bad. Now, the only thing bad that I found about it is that if you're using plane and you want to go from one to the next, you're doing page down, page up, page down, page up, and you go from one to the next, and easily with just a key on your keyboard. There's no shortcut for that. You have to do right click on the tab and go to next one, go to next one, go to next one. I find that a little painful. It's possible that it's going to switch to plane and not too far in the future. No. No. Not that I know of, at least. Saying no like that may be a little presumptuous. Now, another thing that I've did in that project is that I several times included in both planes or using tab like that, both the table in the form in one window. That allows to have the whole management of a file inside one window alone, not having to open something else, not being desynchronized. Everything is managed in planes. I came to that because it's something that you use a lot in mobile, where you don't want to open and close window all the time. And finally, it's kind of useful because if you want to move a functionality from one project to another, you just take the window and everything is in it. Of course, you have everything in the window except maybe all the background code that is going to be reusable in WebDev or in mobile, where the UI is going to be different. So basically, you have, for the user management, by example, you have one window and one class. Because I wanted to try them and see if they were better or less good than the planes. And at this point, it looks like they are a little more a pain in the butt than the planes and not giving really anything extra. So I wanted to try them in a real case situation to see if what was what. I've been using also, and I told you that earlier, internal windows to group options. Instead of having separate windows that would fly around, by example, for the import windows, I have the import of files, I have the import of camera, I have the scan, all that in the same window on different internal windows. Again, you can do many different ways the same thing. This is how I decided to implement it. Feel free to let me know what you think about it, if you think it's neat, if you think it's, I don't know, whatever. I'm not sure that this is UI decision is not my main area of expertise. I've been playing around here trying to find solution. You let me know. So by example, in the W setting window, there are internal window settings general, internal window init wizard, internal window information, and internal window settings help editor displayed depending of what you're doing inside the main window. When you want to use one of them all by itself, and that is the case of the init wizard that is displayed from the project init code the first time you run the project, then you do that inside this generic window, which is shell for internal window. And basically in that case, as you can see here, I'm using the real open because I'm in the project init code and I want that window to be model and to block everything till it's done. However, the same exact window can be opened with our window open from the main UI just by passing its name as a parameter. And suddenly my internal window is in a non-model window and is behaving completely differently. And also, if you haven't seen it yet, I'm using constant everywhere because, well, I don't want to remember which value is what, so constant are a very neat trick. This is the list of classes that are available in the project. If they are prefixed by CLWXR, it means that they are coming directly without any change from the replication project. And you see that you have a bunch of them. Then you have the classes that are prefixed CLEDM something. They are specific to WxEDM. And then you have classes eventually, you have one of them here. They are prefixed CLUD as user defined. And those are there to inherit from another class and add things to it. And by example, in here, I have the CL user-defined replication inheriting from CLWXR, the replication, and modifying its behavior for my specific case here. I also have several collection of procedure, and I apologize at that level, but the naming convention is inconsistent. I hate that. However, some are used already in the replication thing, and renaming them is kind of a problem. The RC4 collection of procedure is the encryption using the RC4 algorithm that was needed to have something to encrypt between Android and everything else. Because before 20, there was no compatible encryption schema available. It is not needed anymore because there is a standard crypt function, available in 20 that was not existing before. So it's kind of still there because you can have older clients still using that. The new replication class, the version 1.2, has an option that tells it what kind of packet it is receiving. Is it in clear? Is it encrypted RC4? Or is it something else? And there are several types that are in the works, like standard encrypted with that algorithm, zipped, and so on and so forth. The CPR checkbox is a little trick that I designed because I was working a lot here with checkboxes for different options, by example, the document checkboxes. And it is really awkward to pass that as a parameter to something else, because basically it is an array of 1 or 0. That's not very easy to work with. So I decided to create a few procedures that are basically checkbox to integer and integer to checkbox. You pass it any checkbox and it's going to code in a binary fashion 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32 and so forth the status of each element of the checkbox depending on the number of options. So suddenly you just have one integer. You can store it in database. You can retrieve it from the database, push it to a control, and so on and so forth, or passes a parameter to another procedure. Just a little trick, but decided I was bored to always do the old sing and dance to manage specific cases. Then you have the collection of procedure for the takes text control. I told you about that before. There's basically 4 functions that allow you to work with the ActiveX in question. You have the collection of procedure windows, and this contains 2 family of functions. One is the locking mechanism, because the locking mechanism works on the windows. So they all start by lock. And the other is the Windows management, the multi-Windows management mechanism. And finally, you have the collection of procedure coming from the replication with the HAD modifier and so on. And I think, yeah, okay. What time is it? No, okay, we still have some time. Sorry? No? In the future, that is a non-exhaustive list of the kind of thing I would like to implement in this project. As you can see, there's already a long wish list, and we already added a few more today. So, support of other type of files like ODT, XLS, RTF, and so on and so forth. I have to put in place an installer for the executable, and that means managing, installing also Gembox and takes text control. So there's some little tweak to do to have that work without the user being an admin and all that. So I have to look exactly how to do that. It's possible, just not something I do usually, so some research involved. The background indexing I told you about in order to improve the speed. There's some general cleaning needed because all that, as I was telling you, was developed either specifically for this or coming from tens of different projects that have been using here and there and regrouped, so there are some inconsistency. There's quite a few places where I want to increase the speed of the processing. I want to improve the security by doing a full in-house edit and have no files on the drive at all, not even the one that is edited at any time. I want to support LibreOffice via OLE and possibly also Word, Office itself. I want to include the scan and the OCR of document. So the scan is nearly ready, the OCR is just in the list. I want to add a lot of extra permission everywhere because I didn't have the time to go everywhere and ask and set the different permission in the code. So by example, restrict the document access is allowed only to access his own document, is allowed to access all document and all this kind of thing. I want to add the management of revision or version of document. So you can have the same document in version 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in database and go back in history if needed. I want to be able to import directly from a camera. It's nothing, it's just going into the proper directory, the DCM directory and the camera and getting pictures from there, but that needs to be done. Specifically because if the camera is a cell phone, basically you have a scanner in your phone and you take the picture, import from it, from the phone directly and do some OCR on it and you have a very easy scanner solution. I want also to create an Android application that's going to be a document viewer that you can download from your main server, and a scanner where you can upload to your main server acquisition. Same thing on the web, viewer and uploader. And I also want to implement a vault management. And by vault management, I mean that you will be able to tell the system that this document needs to get a secondary encryption. You enter the key, and if you forget the key, you basically lost your document. But you can have a secondary level of encryption. That is what I want in that system. Now, I don't know what you want. Feel free to tell me. In fact, feel free to write to me about it, because otherwise I'll forget. But that is already my list. And that's all. That's all there is in the presentation. So I suggest that we do a pause now. And when we come back, you tell me if you want to dig in the code, if you want to go into the details of what the replication is going to do to that. And we'll proceed from there. Okay?
Estimate the database size to be.
Depends on the size of each document. There's no way to tell you anything.
For you, right now, what's yours? What do you think yours is going to be?
Oh, it's going to... Currently, I imported perhaps 20% of my document to test, and it was 600 megabytes, something like that. I think. I didn't really look at it because I didn't also check the number of documents and all that. It's not... I don't have hard, really, that level.
And what do you think the upper limit's going to be?
There's no upper limit.
I can give you an example of what we've implemented. We've been doing imports of PDFs and binaries now for a couple of years with a couple of very large companies. Give me a minute to get in the server, and I'll tell you what's out of that file. Stop recording.
I think that we can stop recording for now, and we do the pause, and we'll continue after that. Yeah, sure.